you want to be one of these people who keeps their ego in check and their emotions in check and doesn't get into arguments.
Right.
Especially if you're at a bar called Coyote Ugly at 2:30 in the morning.
Bringing you law, gospel, and guns. This is Armed Lutheran Radio.
Hi, folks. Welcome to Armed Lutheran Radio, a podcast about guns, hunting, competitive shooting, the natural right of self-defense, and what God's Word says about the issues surrounding gun rights and gun ownership. I'm your host, Lloyd Bailey, the Armed Lutheran, and this is episode number 268. Wow, we're getting up there. We thank you for all of you who have joined us again this week. Appreciate you making Armed Lutheran Radio a part of your week. And for those of you who are new, welcome aboard. Hope you enjoy what you hear and you stick around for more later. Joining me again this week, the pistol-packing Padre himself, John Bennett. Pastor, welcome back.
Thank you, Lloyd. It's good to be back. It's been a few weeks since we've talked.
It has. And condolences to the St. John Willow Creek family. I know it's been a tough couple of weeks.
Yeah, and I personally don't like Saturday funerals because it's hard for me to switch mindsets from funeral to divine service on Sunday morning. It was, both were rather sudden. One was a man who 3 weeks to the day before he died, he found out he had cancer. And the other, and this is, if I can get by with this, when I depart this earth, I'd be thrilled. Woman in a nursing home, she finishes her noon meal. They suspect she had a serious stroke. And by 5:30, she was with the Lord. So if I only have to suffer for 5 hours before I depart this life, I'm thrilled.
Yeah. No, that would be a preferable way to go. Yeah, just sort of real quick and peaceful. Get it over with. Don't struggle.
Right. Well, I think the
We've
only
seen way too much
better way you can go is in your
that.
sleep.
Yeah, exactly. Just go to sleep on this side and wake up with the Lord. That'd be the way to do it.
Absolutely.
Well, today we are visiting with our old pal Florida man to see what self-defense lessons we can learn from his latest antics.
Learning from the mistakes of others, huh?
That's right. That's right. How not to go through life. But before we begin, I want to thank the awesome men and women who make this show possible, the members of the Reformation Gun Club. Today we're giving a shout out to Jerry and Billy from Deer Lodge, Montana, John, that's a different John, Kevin from Fairfax, Missouri, Michael from Janesville, Minnesota, and Robert from Bothell, Washington. Thank you all so much for your support. Thank you to all the members of the Gun Club. We really do appreciate your support. Like I said, we're listener funded. That means you're not going to hear any advertising or any sponsors on this show. This is really the only kind of ad you're going to hear. To keep us doing what we do, the members of the Gun Club kind of put their money where their mouth is. Once a year or once a month, they provide a little funding to help us keep doing what we're doing, and they get access to hundreds of hours of exclusive content. Invitations to our monthly online hangouts. The next one is coming up June 12th, I believe. Get access to our cool new website, some cool swag. Got a new podcast specifically for Gun Club members, and you get the satisfaction of knowing you made all this craziness possible. So if you would like to learn more, check out all the benefits and all the exclusive content available to members by going to armedlutheran.us/gun club, or look for a link in the show notes for this or any of our previous episodes. And one last thing before we get started, I was planning, each week I go through and randomly select a handful of members to give a shout out to. And one of the names that came up this week was a longtime member, Kurt from Ennis, Montana. And I got a letter recently thanking us for what we do here at Armed Lutheran Radio, informing me, though, that Kurt's Patreon pledge was going to be canceled. But the letter was from Kurt's family, informing me that Kurt had passed away late last year, and I never met Kurt. I got interacted with him a little bit. I can't say that I knew him, but I certainly appreciated his support, and I know I speak for everyone here at Armed Lutheran Radio and on behalf of the members of the Reformation Gun Club. Wanted to extend our condolences to Kurt's family and friends on his passing. All right, now we got all the sad stuff out of the way. Time to check in with what's happening with Florida Man, see what he's been up to, and apparently quite a bit. When I was going through,
and I'm sure nothing good either.
No, nothing good. Some of it quite scandalous, some of it rather hilarious. I picked out 3 articles that only one of which is funny. The first 2, and all 3 of them have important lessons for us for self-defense and self-protection, personal protection, that sort of thing. So the first 2, don't expect belly laughs. The third one is where the fun hits. So this first one is from Ybor City near Tampa. And, we've heard these going back to Trayvon Martin, and we've seen some other stories about drawing a gun on or shooting an unarmed assailant, right? Where people will say, well, why would you bother? Why do you have to pull a gun on somebody who's not armed? Well, here's another example of why that might be necessary. From Tampa, I don't remember. I think this was TampaBayNews.com or TampaBay.com. A single punch thrown amid an early morning argument outside an Ybor City bar ended one man's life and will cost another several years of his own. Justin Jasper, Florida man, accepted a 7-year prison sentence on Wednesday for causing the death of Deontay Neal, who died after what police and prosecutors described as an unprovoked blow to the head. In a deal with prosecutors, Jasper also agreed to serve 5 years of probation upon his release and complete 75 hours of community service. Jasper, aged 34, pleaded no contest earlier this month to a manslaughter charge. Now listen to this. The crime happened at 2:30 a.m. on September 26th of 2019. So it took nearly 2 years to get justice for this. A couple of these stories are a testament to how screwed up our system is. We don't have a system of justice. We have a legal system. We don't have a system of justice anymore. When it takes this long on a plea deal for somebody to actually be sentenced.
Right. We have, I think a better way to describe it, we have a labyrinth of a system.
Yeah. Yep.
And the sad thing is, and there is a Netflix series, and it's a difficult one to watch. It's called The Trial of Gabriel Fernandez, and it's about an 8-year-old boy that was murdered by his mother and stepfather, and to see the failures of the government in protecting this boy, because technically he was a ward of the state, and the state it was Los Angeles County, no surprise. That there were county workers who went to prison because of their refusal to do their job, falsifying records even to try and covered it up to make it look like there was no wrongdoing on their part. So, yes, our legal system is screwed up.
It really is. In this case, the crime that precipitated all of this happened, as I said, at 2:30 a.m. on the sidewalk outside the Coyote Ugly Saloon on East 7th Avenue. Stop by and say hi. Video from that night showed that Neal was talking to 2 men. A man got in his face, and Neal appeared to be trying to avoid a conflict, said police, and a crowd began to form. Jasper, now listen to this. The guy is not even part of this argument. Jasper, who was in a nearby car, not even part of the conversation, in a nearby car, got out, approached Neal from behind, and hit him in the side of the face.
Oh, goodness.
Neal fell, hit his head on the pavement, and as he lay on the ground, Jasper took a portable speaker that Neal had been holding in his hand and threw it at him. So, guy's not even part of the whole altercation. He just walks up and sucker punches the guy and sees an opportunity to sucker punch him.
Holy crap. Pardon my language.
Neil was taken to the hospital where he remained for 5 days with his jaw and skull fractured. With no brain function, his family decided to take him off life support.
Wow.
Jasper, it says, left after the attack, but later cooperated with investigators and turned himself in when a warrant was issued for his arrest. He posted $200,000 bail 2 weeks after he was arrested and was released from jail. So, what lessons can we learn from this bunch of Florida men?
There is a direct quote from Aaron Israel. Not my monkeys, not my circus.
Yep.
You know, it's there was a similar. Well, I don't know how similar you can say this is. There was a story not too long ago, and I believe it was in Louisiana. There was a Dunkin' Donuts employee that claimed that a patron had called him the N-word. A 73-year-old man. He punched the guy in the head, and the guy died.
Oh, gosh.
So you killed somebody's grandpa. Congratulations.
Nice.
Yeah. So there is clear evidence that a significant blow to the head can kill someone. You know, I mentioned the story of Gabriel Fernandez. Turns out he was killed by blunt force trauma because his mother's boyfriend slammed his head into the wall too many times. 8-year-old kid, by the way. So,
jeez.
You know, and perhaps we have television to blame, that people watch too much UFC and think, well, if that guy could take that many blows to the head, so can this other one.
And I guarantee the crowd that had formed whooped and hollered when he hit him, and the guy went down with one punch. Like, oh wow, look at that! Yeah. That whole culture that we've built up that celebrates the big hit and the big punch and the knockout blow and the oh wow, look at the punishment he delivered in sports. And you see a fight going on, and somebody throws a punch like this. And everybody gets excited and thinks, wow, that was really cool. And what you've done is you've killed somebody and for your jollies. And this guy wasn't even involved in whatever the argument was, apparently. He was sitting in his car and just saw an opportunity to get involved for some reason.
Yeah.
So like you said, not my monkeys, not my circus. Don't involve yourself in arguments that aren't yours. Especially
if there is no imminent bodily threat to anyone. I mean, it was an argument. Now, if the victim would have instead been physically assaulting some young lady and he stepped in, I'd be the first to pin a medal on him for his heroism. But that wasn't the case. Yep. You know, and
he probably heard something in the conversation he took offense to, or he thought he'd get his jollies by going and sucker punching a guy who didn't see him coming.
Right.
There's a couple of other things that I made note of. One is being at a bar at 2 a.m., probably not a good idea. Generally, nothing good happens at 2 a.m. at bars.
No.
Especially one called the Ugly Coyote or Coyote Ugly or whatever it was. Probably not good. No offense to the people who own the Ugly Coyote in Ybor City. I wouldn't recommend going to a bar at 2:30 in the morning. But then there's kind of like you were saying, and to follow up on what you were saying about using force in defense as opposed to being the aggressor. You want to be one of these people who keeps their ego in check and their emotions in check and doesn't get into arguments.
Right.
Especially if you're at a bar called Coyote Ugly at 2:30 in the morning.
Yeah.
But if you do find yourself in this situation, the article suggests that Deontay Neal was trying to diffuse the situation even though you're trying to avoid a confrontation, recognize that the guy who's right in front of you may not be the only threat to you.
Right.
Right. So kind of keep you got to have that situational awareness thing. They're talking about a crowd forming. Well, don't allow yourself to get surrounded because you're focused on one person who's, you got to make sure that you focused enough on that guy so he can't harm you, but you also at the same time, and this sounds kind of contradictory, but you also have to be aware that there's stuff going on around you that could be harmful to you. So keep your head on a swivel. Don't allow yourself to be surrounded. If it means turning and running and jumping in your car and driving away, do it. It's not worth standing there and arguing and potentially taking a punch in the head that kills you.
Right.
All right. This next one, this is a bizarre story. This one is from Orlando, from the Washington Post. This one is a little more current. This is just this month, was posted May 7th. He'd been at the Millennium Mall in Orlando for less than an hour when he allegedly zeroed in on the shopper with the bags from Gucci and Louis Vuitton. Now, Derek Maurice Herlong, our Florida man, followed closely behind as the man he was planning to rob loaded his purchases into the trunk of a silver Lexus and drove toward downtown, said police. At some point, the man stopped at a 7-Eleven, and that's when, according to a chain of events described in an arrest affidavit, Herlong and an accomplice took an extraordinary step to ensure that they didn't lose him. Now listen to this. This is amazing. Minutes later, the pair cornered the man as he entered. I purposely left out a sentence there just to keep you hanging.
All right.
So I don't give the whole story away. You'll hear it in a minute. Minutes later, the pair cornered the man as he entered a gathering at a nearby apartment, robbing him at gunpoint, stealing his car, and fatally shooting another man, 32-year-old Jacaris Rozier, according to police. So they didn't shoot the mark, the guy they were trying to rob. They shot somebody else. Orlando police documents released Thursday detail how investigators identified Herlong, aged 37, as the suspect in the February 19th, he did this the day after my birthday, killing of Rozier. Herlong has pleaded not guilty to murder, home invasion, carjacking, and grand theft. Good luck with that. His defense attorney declined to comment. The documents, first reported by Orlando News 6, offer a window into the highly unusual method that Herlong is said to have used to surveil his victim. This is, and it says, the technique is bound to raise some concerns for the privacy conscious. Listen to this. According to the arrest warrant, Herlong laid the groundwork for this crime weeks earlier at a Panda Express in another part of town when he stole a purse and a wallet from a worker there in January. He then used that worker's identification to buy an iPhone at Metro PCS. On February 18th, the day before this theft, Herlong or someone associated with him activated the phone using an iCloud account in the restaurant worker's name. Investigators said they confirmed the timeline using surveillance footage, receipts, and interviews, and they also found Herlong's number in the device. The following day, Herlong staked out the victim at the Millennium Mall, who said the surveillance, according to police, who said that surveillance footage showed him with two accomplices. When homicide detectives canvassed the shooting scene, they found the victim's Lexus nearby, and as the vehicle was being loaded onto a tow truck, the truck driver noticed a nylon bag hanging from the undercarriage. Attached to the bag were two magnets, and inside the bag was an Apple iPhone set to Do Not Disturb, wrapped in a sealed Ziploc bag. The phone's battery was close to full charge, indicating it had been placed there recently. Within a week, investigators tied the iPhone to Herlong. The suspects targeted the victim for robbery based on the purchases at high-end expensive items at ritzy stores. They could be seen making overt efforts to follow the victim away from the mall as they tried to find a suitable place to commit the robbery. So what they did to make sure that they didn't lose their quarry, they used this new Apple iPhone as an improvised vehicle tracker.
Yeah. Wow.
Placing it on the vehicle when the guy went to the 7-Eleven that I mentioned earlier. The guy went into the 7-Eleven, they put the vehicle tracker, they put that iPhone on the undercarriage of the guy's car so they could track him.
Devious.
That is devious and crazy.
Yeah.
A search of his apartment in the city's southwest turned up several bags of articles of clothing from Gucci and Louis Vuitton, along with a Metro PCS receipt bearing the restaurant worker's name and boxes for the phone. They also found during the search of his Mercedes-Benz SUV. The thief had a Mercedes-Benz. They found an assault-style rifle that matched the description of the weapon used in the shooting. They found more than a dozen cell phones on the property, including multiple Androids and prepaid track phones.
Wow.
It says, according to this, turning an iPhone in, you're kind of my Mac guru, so help me out with this. It says that turning an iPhone into an improvised tracking device is fairly simple.
Yeah, there's a feature called Find My Phone.
Mm-hmm.
And all you have to do is log into your iCloud account, and it will show the location of devices that you have registered. Now, here's the really stupid thing. Now this seems devious, and it seems to have taken a little bit of intelligence. Just out of curiosity, I did a search as we were speaking on Amazon for $20. I'm sorry, not $20, for $30. He could have gotten a GPS tracker with a magnetic mount that he could have tracked that wouldn't have led back to him.
Yep. And there's a couple of sentences in the story where they interviewed a security expert who said, that's devious and interesting, but why didn't they just do what you suggested and go buy a GPS tracker for $30?
Right. Yeah. And there certainly is a level of premeditation in this that he already had this on hand before he found his mark. But why didn't he just buy a couple devices off of Amazon? I don't know. Yeah. So sometimes, there are thieves that are absolute geniuses. And there's the other guy. I always question the intelligence of the guy who thinks he's the smartest guy in the room.
Right. Too smart for his own good,
yes.
Right?
Yes.
Well, and here's the last sentence of this article gets back to what we were talking about earlier. Herlong's next scheduled court appearance is a pre-trial hearing in October.
Oh my gosh.
What the hell? This murder happened in May. And we're going to wait till October for a pre-trial hearing?
So 6 months for a pre-trial.
And we've got tons of evidence, and we've got security camera footage and all the stuff collected from his house and his, we've got the lady's, the receipts with the lady's name and her phone and all this stuff. And we got to wait till October just for a freaking pre-trial hearing?
They need to pass laws that prohibit this kind of thing from happening. Justice needs to be swift.
Yes.
Now, I don't believe in saying that justice should be a hasty trial, as we saw with the Derek Chauvin case, where, what was it, I think it was 10 hours of time.
Yeah.
And find out that there is a Black Lives Matter advocate that's on the jury who said, well, I think I might have heard about the case.
Yeah, maybe.
So there needs to be some reform. I don't know what the answer is to that, but it certainly isn't waiting 6 months for a freaking pre-trial hearing.
The left and especially the social justice crowd loves to shout things like "justice delayed is justice denied." Well, this is a perfect example of it. I mean, if you really want to get down to it, waiting 6 months for a pretrial hearing on what, especially something on a murder case where you've got this much evidence, is absolutely nuts.
Yeah.
And this is justice denied for the guy who got shot. Now, what lessons can we learn from this story?
Be vigilant, for one thing. Not that anybody should be made to be paranoid by hearing a case like this, but be aware of your surroundings first and foremost. That, I think that a certain amount of naivete it can be very dangerous.
Right.
You hear about, and fortunately, it's not as common. It's still more common than it should be, but you hear about, young ladies that, they end up having, some guy puts something in their drink at a bar and they find themselves waking up in a strange place naked. Well,
right.
Be vigilant.
Yeah.
And we talk,
and that's not that we're not trying here to victim blame.
No, absolutely not. No.
I don't want anybody to get that impression. What we're trying to say is you need, especially with somebody like this who's engaging in this conspicuous consumption, as you might call it, where you're driving a Lexus and you're going to places like Gucci and Louis Vuitton. And the police described their efforts as overt efforts to trail this guy.
Right.
So they weren't apparently being terribly devious or covert about their efforts to follow him. A little bit of like you were saying, a little bit of vigilance, just paying attention to your surroundings and being aware that maybe something bad could happen because you've got bags full of really expensive stuff in your hands might be a good idea.
Yeah. If you talk to survivors of violent crimes, so often you'll hear this: I never thought it would happen to me.
Yeah.
We see these news stories and it's always happening to someone else, but it's not unhealthy or unreasonable to go through life with a mindset of being wary of the possible.
Mm-hmm.
Those who engage in these kinds of crimes, they pick their marks intentionally. They pick the person who isn't being vigilant. They pick the person who isn't paying a whole lot of attention to their surroundings. They pick the person who's got their nose in their phone as they're walking around, not paying any attention to what's happening around them. So don't be that person.
There's another thing here with this particular story that's important for us to consider. You might want to consider things like LifeLock.
Yes.
Services like LifeLock that will monitor your accounts and alert you if an account is opened in your name and say, "Hey, did you do this?" Because this all started with the employee at the Panda Express who had her identity stolen. Right? She had her purse and her wallet stolen, and the guy bought a phone using her identity.
Right.
And a service like LifeLock, I'm not pushing LifeLock here because I'm not an affiliate of them, or I've used their service in the past, and I can attest to their services, but I'm not pushing this to suggest that or to make any money. I'm just saying there are other services like it, but LifeLock's the one that comes to mind, where they will monitor your accounts. And if somebody opens or even if you open a bank account, or if you apply for a credit card, or if you get a new cell phone service, they will send you an alert on your phone and say, "Hey, was this you that did this?"
Right.
And then you can approve it or decline it. And if you decline it, they will go to bat for you and make sure that those accounts are closed and that you're not held liable for any charges.
There's
this
free
is a
services.
Example.
Free services would be, you can get an Experian account, of the basic free account, which will notify you if there's a credit search or a new account opened. Same thing with Credit Karma. Credit Karma will monitor the other two bureaus that, aside from Equifax, I don't know why it's separate. The service that I pay for is the one that is, I can't remember the name of it off the top of my head. It's the one that Dave Ramsey endorses. And essentially what it is, even with services like LifeLock, they don't catch anything until after the account has already been opened. Mm-hmm. And what the service from Dave Ramsey does, Xander, that's the name of it, Xander Identity Theft. And what they do is they send you frequent reports, and if an account is opened, they will let you know, and you can review it, and they will take care of things if there is any identity theft. And like a service like LifeLock, they have a guarantee that they will pay out such and such amount to help you recover your good name. So, and they're like $10 a month as opposed to whatever LifeLock charges, which is ridiculous.
Yeah, LifeLock's a little more expensive. Xander is spelled exactly like it sounds, Zander insurance. It's XanderIns.com. And again, not an affiliate, so I'm not making any money on this. Just wanted to point you in that direction. But LifeLock or Xander or other services like that would be a good something that you need to consider for your own financial security. And then I guess the last thing, and this is not really explained in this, but it's a point that should be maybe potentially brought up. I don't think that the perp in this particular case was looking to hurt anyone, but he did end up shooting and killing not the guy he was robbing, but someone else, which maybe suggests that this guy tried to intervene somehow. And so maybe there's a lesson there in that don't try, the guy had a rifle apparently, so maybe don't try to take a guy down with a rifle if all he's trying to do is rob you. If you're, the guy from Active Self-Protection, oh God, why can't I think of his name? Correa. John Correa talks about not drawing on a drawn gun, right? So I don't know what happened here, but there's a lesson that we could kind of extrapolate, right? So you're at a party, you're at a gathering at this apartment, and the guy shows up with a rifle wanting to rob one of the attendees at the party. Maybe not trying to stop the guy if you're either unarmed or if you have a handgun on you while the thief has a rifle. Maybe that's not such a great idea.
Yeah, it's... you might have practiced your quick draw skills, but if a guy already has you dead to rights, and if you want your stuff is less important than your life.
Yes. Yes.
Now, if it's a case where you have an opportunity to get the drop on someone who clearly has an intent to commit bodily harm, then yes, do what you can to protect the loss of innocent life. But don't try to be a hero if there's a solution that doesn't involve the loss of life. Now, some might say, that sounds like being a putz or a pansy or being a wuss. You know what? I want to be able to go home to my family at night rather than have them be planning my funeral because I decided that I wanted to try and be the hero.
Yeah. Because the last thing you really want to have happen is your family standing over your casket as they lower it into the ground and say, well, at least he saved that guy's Louis Vuitton bag.
Right.
Right?
Yes. I think the simplest way to put it is if it's just your crap, regardless of how much money it's worth that's on the line, so what? That's what insurance is for.
Yep.
If it's your life that's on the line, do whatever you can to get out of that situation. If somebody's pointing a firearm at you and you say, you know what? I'm going to draw mine and shoot him first.
Yeah.
You don't have the advantage.
especially when you're talking about a rifle.
Yes.
I mean, all right. So that's those are the two less than fun ones. There's a funny one that we're going to do here in just a minute that we're going to save for the Reformation Gun Club. So if you would like to hear the rest of this and hear the crazy guy with the nunchuck story,
can't wait to hear this.
Then be sure to check out the Reformation Gun Club, armedlutheran.us/gun club. For $1 a month, you can become a member, and you can hear about craziness like we're going to talk about here in a minute. Pastor, thank you for doing this today. I really appreciate. I really enjoyed hanging out with you again.
As always, it has been a joy.
Folks, if you have any questions or any comments about what you heard here today, please visit our feedback page at armedlutheran.us/feedback. Leave us a voicemail or a voice message. Send us an email. We would love to hear from you. Next week, we'll have another variety show with tips and rants and craziness from all of our cast. Until then, keep shooting, keep praying. We'll talk to you next time.
John Bennett is the pastor at St. John's Lutheran Church in Willow Creek, Minnesota. For more information, visit stjohnswillowcreek.org. For show notes, be sure to visit our website at www.armedlutheran.us. Check out the Facebook page, The Armed Lutheran, or join our Facebook group, Fans of Armed Lutheran Radio. If you like what you hear, please leave us a comment on our feedback page at armedlutheran.us/feedback. or a review on iTunes and let us know what you think. Thank you for listening to Armed Lutheran Radio, a member of the Self-Defense Radio Network.